Hello again! In this video we'll be looking further into the ridiculous future of electric cars. More beeps, more nonsense, what? More reckless behavior. But before we get to all this, we have some exciting news on why we are changing our video format. If you just want to watch some car stuff, then skip ahead in this video by the chapters down below. This is 2023, and you can hear from my voice I'm speaking English, and maybe some Danish viewers are like, what the heck? From now on, we will be trying this in English for a bit of a challenge for me, and for you maybe to understand me, because my English is probably not the best. But it will hopefully improve over time. I'm a bit inspired by these cool lads from England called, you know them, Richard Hammond.
Hammond!
James May, Tiff Nadell, Jeremy Clarkson, all those gentlemen who review cars and look at them from all kind of cool perspectives. And the other reason is that I want to make these videos better and therefore bringing more narrative into the videos and therefore making them a bit more storytelling. What I'm trying to say is that I'm gonna do a bit more narrative behind the computer and over the videos to make them more like a story about the cars. That's why we're here. We're here to learn about cars, explore them and see what's good, what's bad. Klimabiler in English is not sounding that good, but hopefully you understand. It means klima is meaning climate in English, and biler meaning cars, obviously. But for the Danish viewers, but not for the English viewers, if there are any. But I hopefully will get maybe one view from Australia or something. Yeah.
What were you thinking?
I wasn't really.
Enough with the reasons, but I also want to challenge myself a bit to do this in English, to see how hard would it actually be. And it's, yeah, I guess pretty hard, but I will hopefully be better or manage over time, I don't know. One more thing, these videos are still gonna be like completely honest to the car and what we think about them, and so the cars could be, yeah, totally dog shit or amazing. Hopefully amazing, but yeah, time will tell. Klimabiler, as some of you may know, is turning over to be a bit more IT focused from now on. So from that perspective, it's also a bit better to do this in English. So that's kind of the idea. Let's get started. This adventure all started out by I first visited the Hyundai dealer in Denmark, where I met some very generous people, especially this sales guy. I don't particularly remember his name, but let's just for the sake of the video call him Michael. Michael couldn't really find the reservation for the press car, but he quickly got that sorted out and handed me the keys. Normally you'll have to sign all kind of weird forms basically, just to lay your hands on the press car. It's a bit like selling your kidneys if you scratch the car. But the most important of these papers are the crazy driver one. It basically states that if you get caught by speeding 100%, the police will take back the car. You have to pay the value of the car back to the manufacturer. Blah, 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 blah. Boring. So you could just go up to 196 and it will be all fine. But Michael didn't let me sign any of these boring forms, and he just handed me the keys, and I was on my way. It almost felt like I stole the car. I must say, it felt pretty cool. Credit to Michael for the trust in people. With that, I was on my way in true Danish fashion. The weather was nothing but beautiful on the day of recording. Maybe it's about time to look into the car we brought here today. It's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Its name is Hyundai Ioniq 5, and I've now loaned this for a week, driven it all kind of places. Around town, on the highway, on the motorway. And how was it? It's a good question. A bit mixed feelings, I would say. First of all, the design. I don't know how to explain this, but when I look at it, I think of the small tamagotchis, I think it's called. Yeah, I'm a 90s kid, and that is what we used to play with back in the days. I don't know, this car reminds me of that. It has all kinds of weird and strange sounds when you use it or when you drive it, and its looks is kind of funky with the squared off headlights and all these lines. Yeah, the whole front part is kind of weird. But I think it's actually kind of cool. A bit weird at first. You have to get used to it, but when you're used to it, it looks kind of cool. It reminds me like of an old hatchback called a Lancia Integrale in a very, very high-tech version in somehow. I don't know, but yeah, kind of cool. These 5 lines down here and these squared off headlights and also this weird pattern on the inside of the car is quite the theme of this car because it's pretty much all over the car. So if we move down the side of the car, you'll find it here, 5 stripes. But you can also find it here on the rear taillights and also the 5 lines here. And up here you'll have like also a bit of a spoiler. This car has like a sister and it's the EV6 and it's pretty much the same platform. This right here is the Ultimate Edition and it's pretty well spec'd, to say at least. It's 325 horsepower and a 77 kilowatt hour battery. And if you think that the Ioniq 5 is a bit weird looking on the outside, yep, you should see the inside. It's different, I would say, to put it lightly. On the inside here we have these 2 kind of Mercedes looking screens, but in white. And in the middle here, below the screen, we have a panel of buttons you can push, and yeah, some of them are touch, some of them are not. The upper ones are the most important ones and they are tactile. That's a good thing. And in the bottom we have these more touch capacitive buttons, but they are not capacitive, they are just normal touch buttons. And they will control such things as temperature and just the climate situation in here. And if you look around the cabin, you'll find these lines we talked about earlier. These 5 lines, you'll find them up here alongside the climate vents. Also here in the pedal to the left side here. And you will find them here in the storage compartment in the middle, and you will find them anywhere. Yep, also up here. And the squared off headlights and rear lights, you'll find those squares also on the doors and also here in the steering wheels. And according to the steering wheel, this kind of weird material, I actually don't like it, to be honest with you. It's a bit weird touching. It gives me like a bit of a creeps. It's not like leather, but it's like very synthetic leather somehow. But apart from that, we also have these buttons on the steering wheel. It's quite intuitive, not that much to it. So we have all these kind of things like cruise control, lane assist, you have all those. We also have the drive mode button down here. Pretty much the most important one, I would say. Besides from, obviously, the traction control button here on the left side. Also pretty good to know. This car has 3 modes. It goes from eco, very chill, and we have like a normal mode, and then we have a sport mode. This is obviously an electric car, but you can turn off the traction control in this car, and that's pretty rare to see in electric cars. And that makes for a bit of fun in the corners and yeah, around the bends. In the middle here you'll find a pair of cup holders and then some charge options, only USB-A. You'll find wireless charging down here and a big storage compartment also. But the weird thing about this central storage unit is that you can take your hand down here and push this lever and then you can move the whole thing. That's very weird, but also very cool. You can move the whole thing around. Not only the top part, but also like the cup holders and the storage unit. It's very weird, but kind of cool. Kind of good idea, actually. And that will obviously make for greater space here in the middle up front. So you can jump actually from the passenger seat into the driver's seat if you're gonna do a switcheroo of who's driving the car. If you get stopped by the police. Don't tell them I said that. One more thing. In the middle here, this car has driven about 2,867 kilometers at this moment. But because it's white, you could fear that it wears very quickly and you can see marks. And that's actually the case here in the middle. Also a bit of a funny thing is most glove boxes like flip down like this, but this is like a drawer. It goes out like this. It's a very convenient actually motion, and there's a lot more space down here. So kind of smart. Overall, I actually quite like this interior. It's a bit futuristic and also very different. I especially also like the aluminium buttons they have used like all over the cabin, and that's pretty cool. For example, here on the pedals where you choose the different levels of regenerative braking. Now let's quickly jump into the back and also see the storage compartment. And let's go for a bit of a drive. Everything back here also feels nice. The material is kind of great. If you bear in mind it's white, so it will easily get marked up by, I don't know, mud or something here. And on the side here, on the passenger seat, you can control the front seat. You can either move it back to crush my legs, or you can have a bit more space in back. I think it's meant for, you can have like an executive driving up here in the passenger seat. And you can also move the back seats electronically to make more space in the back. Back here there's actually a pretty good space for your back, and there's a bit of a storage unit down here, a storage space where you can find like the slow charger and some other bits and bobs. But yeah, let's go for a drive. Let's begin the driving part of this video. Oh, yeah, it's an electric car. Yep, you don't have to warm up because there's no engine. There is an electric engine, or electric motor, connected to the batteries, which make for 325 horsepower in this car. But the first thing I've noticed here in the Ioniq 5 is the amount of electric adjustments to the seat is bloody amazing to see, at least. You can point the seat obviously in all different kind of directions and make yourself very comfortable. This is the top of the line model, and I can already tell this is a pretty goddamn cozy and nice place to be. Everything feels quite good because it's aluminium and synthetic leather. But not the steering wheel is still a bit weird. I don't like the texture that much, but yeah. I think it's just my opinion, I guess. More important, the 3 drive modes. Right now I'm in the sports mode. Rapid acceleration and like instant response, as you would expect here in an electric car. But you can quickly dial it down to the eco mode, and it would be much more relaxing and much more easygoing on you. And yeah, very comfortable. And a bit more quiet also. And then you have the normal mode, just for, I guess normal driving. So the drive modes are also pretty cool, and in some cars they're pretty useless. But this car, it kind of makes sense. Okay, what's more? This car have 4-wheel steering, and you instantly notice that when you take like a sharp turn, the wheels on the back will turn like the opposite direction from the front wheels, and therefore there will be like a shorter turning radius. And in high-speed situations such as on the motorway, you will get like a parallel effect, if you can call it that, where the front wheels and the rear wheels will turn in the same direction, and the car will sort of like go sideways, if that makes sense. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Right now I'm driving here in the city of Copenhagen, and I could very much get used to this car. It's pretty goddamn cool. But the thing is I have with Hyundai is that Hyundai have this department called N Division. N Division. And these kind of cars have an amazing engines and setups and are very, very good on the road. This car is still a very heavy car, and this N Division is making some incredible cars. And I think it's a bit unfortunate that the N Division didn't make a version of this car. It should be this Ultimate Edition. Like the batteries and the engine is fine, but I could use some fine tuning of the suspension here and the setup to make this like even more sporty. This is after all the most sporty version, and I sure think that the N Division should make a version of this car. That would be pretty cool. Back in the sports mode, you will feel also a bit heavier steering compared to the eco mode and the normal mode. A bit more important is that obviously the low center of gravity because of the batteries makes for an okay, can you say, driving experience in the Benz, but it's not razor sharp at all. I would still prefer like the Tesla Model 3 if you compare it to that in the Benz, but yeah, it's not far off. I feel more engaged in the driving experience in here. There's a lot of buttons and cool things you can push, and yeah, you can do a lot of more stuff in here compared to the Tesla. It's pretty cool. This synthetic smell of this material that is like all over this car is weird. It doesn't smell like a new car. Let's test the acceleration. 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Jesus, it's fucking quick. These 325 horsepower does a pretty amazing job, I would say. It's definitely fast. And no need for more power than that. You can always use more power, right? But for the normal user, I would say it's good enough. Otherwise, it's a pretty comfortable cruiser here. It's pretty good all around. I don't know, I get this very Apple feeling in here. Everything is white, and with the 2 layers of buttons here, the more tactile ones and the more touchy one down under, it's pretty good and it's pretty intuitive. It's not that hard to figure out what's what. But yeah, you can always make things better, and this car would be better in a even more sportier version, the N version we talked about, but we could also do a more comfortable version. Still in this car you get a bit of an hard experience on the suspension. You can feel most bumps because it's a quite heavy car, and therefore you have to make a quite hard suspension to cope with all that weight. I don't know if it's just me or anybody else have experienced this in the Ioniq 5, but when you turn on like the auto light function over here, where this light is supposed to turn automatically on, obviously at night, it doesn't turn on at times. And I actually got stopped by the police yesterday. Very embarrassing. And they were like, why are you driving without no lights? And I was explaining, this is a new car to me, I don't know anything about it, blah blah blah. And they were quite nice to me, and they just said, okay, but try turning on your lights, blah blah blah. And yes, I tried to turn on the lights, and I drove off, and yeah, 50 meters later I got stopped again, and they were like, yeah, it's still not working. I was still a bit confused, still a bit afraid for getting a ticket, but they let me go, and it was actually really nice to me. And with that said, it's time to end this video, and it's been a bit of a challenge, I would say, but yeah, who's not up for that? It was very good fun in the end. So yeah, you should totally consider subscribing at this point, because why not? We'll make more kind of these videos in the future, and also videos where we go on different kind of road trips and raid cars, all in all different aspects. And so stay tuned for that, and yeah, have a great one.